The bright pink chalk butterfly stretched across the sidewalk. Tiny handprints circled it in yellow and blue. And right in the center, written in shaky little letters, "We love Mom." 7-year-old Lily stepped back proudly, chalk dust all over her fingers. "Do you think Mommy will smile?" she asked. Her little brother Max nodded excitedly. She hasn't smiled in days. But before their mother Sarah could even walk outside to see it, a black SUV rolled slowly down the street, and the woman inside stopped cold. Nancy Whitmore, president of the HOA. The woman neighbors secretly called the Queen of Fines. She stared at the children's chalk drawings like someone had spray-painted graffiti across a mansion. Then she smiled. Not a warm smile. The kind of smile people make when they finally find a reason to hurt someone. And by the next morning, Sarah Collins received an eviction notice taped to her front door. Sarah Collins never planned to become a single mother. 3 years earlier, her husband Daniel died in a highway accident during a rainstorm. One phone call destroyed everything. Since then, Sarah worked 2 jobs just to survive. Morning shifts at a diner, night bookkeeping from home. Sleep became a luxury. Bills became nightmares. But no matter how exhausted she felt, she protected her children from seeing the fear. Every night she still read bedtime stories, still kissed scraped knees, still pretended everything would be okay, even when she wasn't sure herself. The small neighborhood in Willow Creek looked perfect from the outside. Fresh lawns, white fences, flowers hanging from porches. But behind the beauty sat the Willow Creek HOA. And Nancy Whitmore controlled all of it. Nancy believed rules mattered more than people. Grass too long. Fine. Trash can visible. Fine. Wrong mailbox color. Fine. And Sarah had become Nancy's favorite target. Why? Because struggling people were easy to bully. Especially people without money. Especially widows. Especially mothers too exhausted to fight back. 3 days after the chalk drawings appeared, Sarah attended an HOA meeting. The room smelled like coffee and fake politeness. Nancy stood at the front wearing a pearl necklace and a cold expression. "As many of you know," Nancy announced, "certain residents have repeatedly violated community appearance standards." Her eyes locked directly onto Sarah. Everyone noticed. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Nancy clicked a remote. Photos appeared on a projector screen. The children's chalk butterflies, rainbows, hearts, messages saying, "Mom is our hero." The room became silent. Sarah's cheeks burned red. "They're children," she said quietly. Nancy ignored her. "These drawings lower property values." A few neighbors exchanged uncomfortable looks. Then Nancy pulled out another paper. Due to repeated noncompliance, Mrs. Collins is now facing formal removal proceedings from Willow Creek. Sarah's stomach dropped. "What?" "You heard correctly. You're evicting me over chalk. Over continued disrespect for community standards." Lily, sitting beside her mother, whispered softly, "Mommy, are we bad?" That question shattered Sarah more than the humiliation. The fines started multiplying. $150 for unauthorized sidewalk markings. $300 for visual disturbances. $500 for failure to comply. Sarah stopped eating lunch just to save money. She sold her wedding ring. Then her television. Then Daniel's old guitar. Still, the debt grew. Nancy wasn't trying to enforce rules anymore. She was trying to break her. One evening Sarah returned home and found another notice. Final warning. Eviction pending. Her hands trembled. Lily noticed immediately. "Mommy, are we losing the house?" Sarah forced a smile. "No, baby." But Max overheard anyway. That night the children quietly erased every chalk drawing themselves. In silence, tiny hands scrubbing the sidewalk in darkness, trying to save their home. Sarah watched through the kitchen window and cried harder than she had since Daniel's funeral. People in Willow Creek started talking. Some supported Nancy. She should follow the rules. Rules are rules. But others felt disgusted, especially an elderly veteran named Mr. Jenkins. He watched the children cleaning the sidewalk at midnight. The next morning, he confronted Nancy outside the clubhouse. "You're bullying kids." Nancy crossed her arms. "I'm protecting property values." "No," he snapped, "you're enjoying power." Nancy smirked. "Careful, Harold, I can fine you too." That threat spread through the neighborhood fast. People became afraid. Nobody wanted to become Nancy's next target. So most stayed silent. And silence helped cruelty grow stronger. One rainy afternoon, Sarah received a certified letter. Court filing. Official eviction hearing scheduled in 14 days. Her knees nearly buckled. She called legal aid offices. Nobody could help in time. Retainers cost thousands. Money she didn't have. That night electricity shut off briefly because she missed a payment. The kids pretended it was a game. "Camping adventure," Max shouted. Sarah smiled for them, then cried alone in the bathroom afterward. For the first time, she considered giving up. Maybe Nancy had already won. 3 houses away lived someone Nancy barely noticed. Quiet, private, middle-aged man. Always polite. His name was Thomas Reed. Most neighbors thought he worked remotely in insurance. Nancy certainly never paid attention to him. But Thomas had watched everything. The fines, the threats, the children crying. And one detail bothered him deeply. Nancy kept targeting only certain homeowners. Widows, retirees, families struggling financially. That pattern wasn't random. So Thomas started investigating quietly. And what he discovered changed everything. Nancy had been issuing illegal fines for years. Many violated state housing laws. Some residents had paid thousands out of fear. Others moved away completely. And the HOA board. They signed whatever Nancy placed in front of them. Because they feared her too. Thomas printed hundreds of documents. Emails. Financial records. Violation inconsistencies. Selective enforcement evidence. Then he made a phone call. One that would terrify Nancy Whitmore. Because Thomas Reed wasn't an insurance worker. He was one of the top real estate attorneys in the state. And he had just accepted Sarah Collins as his client. For free, days before the eviction hearing. Nancy sat inside her office, reviewing paperwork confidently. Then, knock knock. She looked up irritably. Thomas Reed entered wearing a dark suit, holding a leather briefcase. Nancy frowned. "Can I help you?" Thomas calmly placed a thick stack of papers on her desk. "You've violated federal housing protections, selective enforcement laws, intimidation statutes, and multiple state HOA regulations." Nancy laughed nervously. "I think you're confused." "No," Thomas said calmly, "you are." Her smile faded. Then Thomas opened the folder. Photographs, financial audits, witness statements, recorded HOA meetings. Nancy's face slowly lost color. "You targeted vulnerable residents intentionally," Thomas continued. especially widows and lower-income homeowners. That's ridiculous. We also uncovered unauthorized use of HOA funds. Nancy froze. Complete silence. Thomas leaned slightly forward. If this proceeds to court, your personal assets become discoverable. For the first time in years. Nancy Whitmore looked scared. Real fear, word spread quickly. Neighbors learned Thomas was representing Sarah. Suddenly people became brave. Former victims came forward. A retired teacher revealed Nancy fined her over garden decorations. A disabled veteran described harassment over his wheelchair ramp. Another family showed proof of fabricated violations. The HOA board panicked. Emergency meetings exploded into screaming arguments. Board members blamed Nancy for everything. Nancy tried regaining control. But fear had shifted. Now people were afraid of the truth. Not her. Then local media caught the story. Headline: HOA accused of targeting single mother over children's chalk art. The internet exploded. Millions viewed photos of Lily's butterfly drawings. Comments flooded in. Evicting children over chalk is evil. This woman deserves jail. Protect that family. Nancy's reputation collapsed overnight. The courtroom overflowed with residents. Sarah sat nervously beside Thomas. Nancy entered looking exhausted. No pearl necklace today. No confidence either. The judge reviewed the evidence silently for several minutes. Then looked directly at Nancy. Is it true these children's chalk drawings were the basis for eviction proceedings? Nancy tried speaking. Yes, but... The judge interrupted sharply. Sidewalk chalk. Soft laughter spread through the courtroom. Nancy's attorney looked miserable. Thomas then presented selective enforcement evidence. Charts, fine histories, recorded statements, financial misuse allegations. The judge's expression hardened further with every page. Finally he spoke. This court finds the eviction action entirely without merit. Sarah covered her mouth in shock. But the judge wasn't finished. I am also ordering an investigation into the HOA's conduct and financial activities. Nancy looked physically ill. Then came the final blow. The Collins family will receive full reimbursement of all fines and legal damages. The courtroom erupted. People actually clapped. Sarah broke down crying. Lily hugged her tightly. And Nancy Whitmore sat frozen while everything she built collapsed around her. 2 months later, the Willow Creek HOA board was completely replaced. Nancy resigned in disgrace. Multiple investigations continued. Several former residents even filed lawsuits. But the moment everyone remembered most happened on a warm Saturday afternoon. Children covered the sidewalks again. Huge colorful drawings everywhere. Butterflies, rainbows, flowers. And this time, nobody stopped them. Sarah sat on her porch smiling, while Lily handed her a piece of blue chalk. Come draw with us, Mommy. Sarah laughed softly. For the first time in years, the fear was gone. Mr. Jenkins grilled burgers nearby. Neighbors talked openly again. Even Thomas Reed showed up quietly carrying lemonade. Then Max pointed proudly toward the sidewalk. A giant message stretched across the concrete in bright colors. It read, "This neighborhood belongs to good people." Sarah stared at the words silently. Because after everything, that sentence finally felt true again. Sometimes evil doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it hides behind rules, paperwork, and fake smiles. But the moment good people stop staying silent, everything changes. If this story moved you, subscribe for more emotional revenge stories where ordinary people fight back against cruel power.